Those of you who have seen my other tutorials know whenever I draw a humanoid character, I always start with a circle. I like to start with the head and kind of know where he's going to be. And again, this is under drawing, so it does not have to be perfect. And then across that circle, I'm going to do a center line. So I'm going to have Spider-Man looking straight towards us here. So again, this is just rough sketching, okay? Next thing I do is I like to draw Spider-Man's chin. So, you know, as I've said in the past, if you've watched other Spider-Man tutorials, you know, when you draw like a character like Captain America or the Hulk, they have those big kind of thick jaw lines. When I draw Spidey, I like to have his chin and jaw be a little thinner. He's a little more youthful. Okay, then I'm going to continue that center line all the way down. Okay. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do the eye line of his head. So this is about in the middle, you know, maybe just slightly above. And that's one of the things, you know, when people make mistakes or they feel like their drawings look a little weird or whatever, it's usually because that eye line is not quite in the right spot. It's either too high or too low. When you look at somebody's head, their eyes are pretty close to the middle of their head. And so Spidey's not any different. So that's one tip that you can apply to a variety of people that you draw, whether it be friends or family or whatever, just that, or any character that you draw, right? There's our Spidey head. The next thing I'm going to do is kind of the action line. It usually follows the direction of the spine. So it comes off the back of the head, and I'm going to give Spidey just a little bit of attitude. He's not going to be doing anything crazy here. I want to make this relatively simple for you guys to follow along. So I'm going to have Spider-Man kind of in a power pose for this costume. Okay, so that's kind of that action line. And then I'm going to draw his shoulder line. This is kind of the shoulder line / collarbone line, the way I do it. And then his hips are down here. Okay? Now I'm going to take this and connect that and really make his torso. So his torso is really nothing more than a rectangle. You know, kind of a skewed rectangle, but you get the idea. Okay? Next thing I'm going to do is his neck. So, you know, much like the chin line, I don't like a big, thick neck on Spidey. I like him to be a little thinner, a little more wiry. Maybe not as cartoony as some of the other versions of Spider-Man I've done, but because we're drawing our web suit, I want to make him look a little bit more realistic. But that neck is kind of thinner. So these are just really, you know, inward-facing lines that create that neckline. Okay, and those come out to the shoulder line. All right, so then for the shoulders and arms, I'm going to give you some basic shapes. Again, you can apply this to a variety of characters. So I'm going to start with just some loose circles out here for Spidey's shoulders, and then stick figure stuff. So his arm's going to come down like this, and that's going to be one arm, and the other one is going to come down like this. If you say, oh, I can only draw stick figures, no worries. That's how all the pros even start. Okay. So now for his arms, I'm going to make some more cylinders and rectangles. So here, you know, his arms are not huge. We don't want a big buff Spider-Man. I like a little bit of a thinner Spider-Man. So these are cylinders here that create the bicep, and then a smaller circle that creates the elbow joint, and then another cylinder that is his forearm. Now if I'm going too fast for you, don't worry. You can pause this video and get caught up. Okay, so that's how I structure that left arm. And then his left hand, we're just going to start off with just kind of a box / oddly shaped pear ball thing right there. So he's gonna be close-fisted here for this drawing. So you don't have to deal with the fingers and all that stuff. It gets a little complicated. So we'll save that for another drawing tutorial. But for now, he's gonna have his fists like that. Okay? And so now we're gonna do the same thing on the other side. Now Spidey's got some strong shoulders. I think that's important. He has strong shoulders. And now we're gonna do some cylinders on the other side. You might be asking why we do this and don't just jump right into the details. It's like, well, because we need to have a solid base for our drawing before we get into all the costume details. Spider-Man has a lot of costume details, and this costume in particular has some nuances about it. So I want to make sure that we have a good structure for Spidey so we can build on. Okay, you can see his torso there. Little ball for the elbow, just like that. And then another cylinder here. You guys are having a great National Superhero Day, which is why we're doing this in the first place. It is National Superhero Day. So if you guys are celebrating by wearing your superhero gear, hopefully you've got a Spider-Man t-shirt on, or the Avengers, or the Guardians of the Galaxy, or something like that. You guys are having a great superhero day, finding fun ways to celebrate while at home. Okay, so there's Spider-Man. Well, not quite Spider-Man. There's our structure for Spider-Man. Now, an important thing here is we're going to do kind of the bottom of the breast line right there. So that creates his chest. And that's important to know for when we do the details on the costume, specifically the logo for this costume. The websuit has a very unique spider logo, so we want to make sure we do that right. Okay? So I'm just going to kind of flesh out what this looks like. I'm going to bring this all down to a point, and that's going to be at the base of his suit, and that's where we're gonna wrap this all up once we're done. Okay, so now we're going to start to connect all these shapes that we've drawn. So I'm going to draw along the top of that shoulder, connect that. Here's our bicep, comes down to that ball, connects to the forearm, and then here is our fist, or balled up fist. Got an elbow over here, maybe a little bit of a tricep. It's on the back. Comes down to his elbow, and then here's his forearm. Okay, it's kind of a power pose. He's walking with a little bit of attitude. He's pretty pumped that he's got all these cool new powers. Okay, so there's his shoulder on the left side, and there's a bicep. Bring that down to the forearm. See, I'm just kind of connecting the outside, just drawing along the outside. And again, you'll notice I'm just kind of sketching over the top of this. Not being too precious about each line. I can't wait to see your guys' drawings. Some of the other tutorials we've done over at Marvel. We've seen some great drawings you guys have put together, and I'm sure you guys are having fun drawing Mickey Mouse and all the other characters that have been available for the Disney Magic Moments. So this is going to be fun to see what you guys come up with. Don't worry about that mouth. I know I draw that just so I know about where his mouth goes. Okay, so there's Spidey. We're not done yet though. So much more to do. Okay, next thing I like to do are his eyes. And I'm just gonna kind of just roughly put, just lightly, just so I know, these are just dots so I know where his eyes go. Now, one of the things that's cool about the web suit, in so many versions of Spider-Man, I mean, every costume, every artist draws them just a little bit differently. Eyes are big, they're small. The web suit is actually very similar to the way Steve Ditko, the original artist for Spider-Man, used to draw them. So they're a little bit smaller. And so what we're going to do is we're going to create those lenses, and it's kind of like an oddly shaped lemon or an iron, like you iron your clothes, and it's rounder at the bottom and streaks across the top, and then comes to a point over here, and that is kind of one piece of the lens. Okay. And notice that it goes over where I made that eye mark, so I know where it's at. Okay, now we're gonna mirror that over here on the other side. Come up to that point and make our little horribly shaped lemon or iron. Again, the point of this is just to have fun, guys. We're all learning. Even I had to learn how to draw this new costume. and I was one of the people that was fortunate enough to work on it. So, you know, it's one of the fun parts of the job. By the way, if I didn't introduce myself, my name is Brian Crosby, and I am the creative director of Marvel Themed Entertainment. And I was fortunate enough to work on some of this stuff. And so excited for you guys to get to enjoy it in person. But for today, we're going to be drawing it. Okay, so there's kind of the outside of those lenses. Now we're going to come in and make a almost echo that same shape, but it's a little, you know, another oddly shaped lemon inside that goes over that eye dot that we made. And that's where the lenses are that Peter Parker sees through. I know he looks a little evil right now, but don't worry. It'll all make sense. Okay? Now I'm going to jump ahead here. I'm going to jump ahead to the spider logo on his chest, because all the webbing that's on Spider-Man's costume, it all kind of builds around that logo. The way Ryan designed it is, you know, it really is, it's the centerpiece of the whole design, and it holds the whole thing together. So the logo is actually, remember that breast line that I had you draw here? So we're going to go right about in the center of that and do a circle. Now the actual costume, if you've been able to see it, you know it's not a circle, but these are actually much more angular. So it's got a little head just above that circle. Okay. And now our legs, which we're going to sketch in, they don't actually touch. They come about to the neck right there. They come out and up, and there are 8 of them, but they don't quite touch. They come down to a little line there, and then they're almost like brackets. So they really kind of frame the whole thing. And then the second set of legs echoes that shape. It's a little bit more of a techier look. You know, keep in mind this is something that was designed in the story by Tony Stark, right? So Peter Parker's fortunate enough to have a pretty good buddy to help him out with some of his suits. So now we're going to put a little bit more definition into the head and the tail, and the bottom part of the tail goes right to that center action line that we had before. And then the head and the base are actually connected by 2 little lines like that. Okay. Now we're going to do our legs over on the other side. Again, sorry if I'm going too fast, but you can pause it and get caught up. And we're echoing the leg shape that we did on the right side. Our left, Spidey's right. Okay. Again, just echoing that shape, and they're slightly curved inward, just slightly. Okay. Now the ends of those legs are thicker, but they're pointed towards the head. So there's a thick base of that leg there and a thick base of that leg. And those all line up and go towards the head of the spider. And the same thing down below. Just like that. Okay. It's a really cool look. And very unique. It's the only place we've seen this. So we're doing the same thing over here on this side. And then we're going to angle down. And you notice I'm still drawing in the blue because I want to make sure all my underdrawing is there. And then we'll get into that darker lead in a little bit. Okay? So we got a pretty good spider logo there. Hope you guys are doing okay. All right, now we're going to go in and start to draw some of these webs. Actually, before we get to the webs, let's draw kind of the base of the costume. Okay, so his gloves are kind of like a traditional Spider-Man in that they come about to the end of the forearm right there, and it goes all the way up along the side of the arm, and then up and over to the chest. It creates a bit of a point. There's actually a black segment right there. It frames his chest just like that. And then this comes all the way down his body, front of his torso, and then we have the belt line, that pseudo belt that he has on his quite super V-cut like some of our bigger superheroes, but that's kind of how he looks. Okay, and we'll do the same thing on the other side, but the forearm for the glove, and then up along the side, over the bicep, underneath the shoulder, and up to a point. And then that point comes down here, and here's our belt line. Okay, there's the basics of that spider costume design. And then he's got a kind of a black outline around the red. It comes down here like this and across the top. Creates a little triangle right there. And same thing up here. So that black point, that's all black in there. And this races along the top. And same thing on the other side. Again, I know I'm going fast. You can pause. Get caught up. Okay. All right, so the next thing we're going to draw are his web shooters. So his web shooters on the websuit are very unique. And there's been different web shooters on all the different Spider-Man costumes. Some are bigger, some are smaller. Some aren't even there at all. And it just kind of magically comes out of his costume. But we really wanted these web shooters to be prominent. And so we're going to make these big web shooters that he has. So they have a lot more presence. They have the capsules that go into those web shooters. They're much thicker, closer to what we've seen in the films. Okay, something like that. It's a little bit thicker. Okay. And we also have the capsules that go in the web shooters, and those are on his belt. And these are really just rectangles that sit on that belt line. And you can go in and put more details in these later. For now, we'll just do them as little rectangles. And he needs to reload those web shooters. He goes through a lot of webbing, doing the things that he does. Okay, how you guys doing? You guys doing okay? Going too fast? All right, I'll slow down. Okay, now we're gonna do the web lines, and we're gonna keep these in blue. Hope you guys are having fun. And we're gonna start with the head. So the web lines first, before we go do anything, we're gonna use the middle of that head as our first web line. And then he's got 3 of these web lines across the top, and then 4 across the bottom. So don't use that bottom half of that center line. I'm gonna spread it out across his face like that. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 across the bottom, and maybe 1 in the middle. Okay, he's got that kind of basketball look to him. Okay, now we're gonna have those web lines go down the neck. We're gonna have 4 of these. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and those come out to the collarbone, which is right here. I'll draw that in so you guys can see that. There's his collarbone. Okay. Now let's go ahead and fill in these so you can see how that's done. So there is a small web pattern in the middle with the loops or arches that go all the way around the face. And those of you who have seen my Spider-Man tutorials know that I insist that these loops be facing towards the center. So if they're facing away, those of you who've seen these before, you get Flower Face Man. And we're gonna stick with Spider-Man. So there is that. Okay. Maybe some right there. There you go. And then we do the same thing. Again, those loops are still facing towards the center of the face. these. And then there's one final row of loops right along that collarbone line that create that edge, that scalloped edge. Okay, there you go. Okay, now we're going to do the torso. So we have one center line that comes through here, goes right down through the top of the head, through the tail, and all the way down to that point. And that becomes the basis for all of the web lines that we make after them. We have another one that comes right to that top leg. We have another one that's going to come out here to the breast line. And we're going to have another one that's going to come to that point. And then one more that's going to come down the shoulder. Okay, so we'll just repeat that on the other side. One to the leg, one to the breast line, one to the point, and one down the shoulder. Okay? Now there is a slight line that extends along the edge of the red portion of the costume that forms a second and a third line, just like that. So you have essentially three lines in the red of the costume. Okay? And then we have another web line on the belt, and another web line on the belt. This one comes all the way down the shoulder, down to the web shooter, maybe one or two more on the glove. Same thing over here, down the arm, and the web shooter, one or two more, and then we're going to go hand, okay. You guys doing okay? Okay. So much like we did up here, now we're going to have our loop lines. So we're going to start with one that is just at the base and connects in between the top of that leg, that outside leg, and into the center. So there's one. Okay. It's important to follow these guidelines because they're very specific on this costume. And then it comes out to here, it continues around, just like that. All right, and now we're going to do one more in between those, between the base of the mask and that line we just made. Okay. Now there is another web line at the base of the breast line to this bottom leg. It connects like that. And it follows this line all the way in. Just imagine that it goes from this point and out. So same thing over here. So like that. And now we're going to connect these. So we have those outside lines that we drew. And we connect down the torso with some web lines. They're a little bit more spaced out in the websuit. Really a fantastic costume. Spider-Man is a great character. Just a ton of fun to draw. And we have one more that goes along the base of the belt. Okay. At the base of the shoulders, there's kind of a chevron shape, if you will, like an arrow at the base of those shoulders. And then we've got web lines down side again, and that loop is always facing towards the head. Okay. Make these more defined later. Same thing here down the hand, and then same thing on the other side. Okay, so I think we're pretty good as far as underdrawing goes. So now we're going to move on to our HB pencil or your regular pencil, whatever it is that you have. And we're gonna start to commit to these lines. So we've got a pretty good sketch here that we feel good about. So now we're gonna commit more to these lines and make them a little more solid. So I'm gonna start with the head. Again, I'm just going over the top of my my sketch. I like to make a little bit of a bump for the ear. Not everybody does. Some people draw just straight down the sides. So if you really want what you're drawing, have fun. Okay. Neckline, so you guys can see that. Okay. Now we're going to go in and do these eyes. I think once you see these colored in, it'll really start to come together. Now the actual costume has several echoing shapes like this inside the eyes, like that. That's how you get that eye articulation that we've seen. So I'm just going to color those in black. You can make those more pronounced in your drawing if you want to. I've just made it, kind of suggested it here. Most of it's black. I leave a little bit of a open area for some highlights. And then we'll do the same thing over on the other side. You're all staying healthy and safe. Okay, so there's the inside of the eye. There's our echoing shape. And we're going to make this black. Color that in. Cool. So you can see how it starts to come together once you start coloring in some of these areas. I'm going to do a heavier outline on the edge of the head, just so you guys can really see how that looks. I don't always do this heavier outline, but sometimes I do. I like it. It kind of gives them a little more presence. Makes them really defined. Okay. And these are for heavier blacks, so you can come in, make this a little darker. Okay. Cool. Now, one thing that's interesting about the web lines on the web suit is that, traditionally when you look at Spider-Man here, you see all the web lines and it's like a solid black line. The web suit, if you look very closely, it's not one solid black line. They're actually two lines that are very close together. Okay, so I'm just going to make this kind of this shadow underneath his neck. I think it helps the head pop off a little bit. So I just really echo the chin line and then create that shadow underneath right there. Okay? Cool. So you see how the head kind of comes together. I did a few little details, some reflection in the eyes. You got some expression in the mask. And then now I'm going to go in and I'm going to do the rest of the outline here so you guys can see it really clearly. Normally I put in the details first before I go to the outline, but I'm going to do the outline so you guys can see it. So this is really just for you. Okay? Something special just for you guys. We have the forearms. Oops. Sharpen a pencil. Okay. There's this web shooter. There's a balled up fist. Just like that. And here's the outside of that arm. And then along the base. Okay? You can see how I like to bring that together. All right, now I'm going to go in and I'm going to do the details on the logo here. So I'm going to outline that head shape, fill that in black. That body or that base. that in, connect those, do these legs, thicker bases. I'm going a little faster just because I know the lines are there. You can just go over the top of your underdrawing that you have. And color those in. Okay. And we're going to go in and do the other side. Color that in. Things that I really love about this costume is while it's completely new, it is quintessentially Spider-Man. There's no doubt about who it is. And I think that's the hallmark of a good spider suit design. I mean, there's been so many over the years. You guys can look at films and comics and video games and cartoons and see all the different iterations on the Spider-Man costume. But they're all Spider-Man. You just look at them all and you know immediately who that guy is. And that's a hallmark of a good design, also a hallmark of a good character. Such a unique character. So I'm going to do that web line, comes all the way down. Web line to the leg. Web line to the breast line. Web line to that point. And web line down the shoulder over there. With our loops, arches, top one, just like that. We've got that thin line that comes down along the torso inside the red, all the way down, the bottom of the belt. We've got that outside black right there. That's the outside black. And this gets colored in black, just like that. Okay. And this is all black. And this black extends down along the arm. Just like that. Okay? I'm going to show you a trick with the blue portions. There are some details in there, but what I'm going to do is, because we have that rib line that's right along there, I'm going to color this in. Not fully, but I'm going to leave just a rim of light along the outside, and then a highlight showing where that rib line is. I'm going to do the same thing over here on the arm. And kind of do an outline of where that outside highlight would be, and come down to the glove. And you can do this in black, you can do this in blue. I'm just doing this so you guys can see how that looks. Okay? I'm going to finish. There's our little chevron shoulder piece right there. Okay. I'm going to bring that web line all the way down that arm, all the way to the web shooter. Web line, web line. There's your web shooter. I'm not going to do all the details on this web shooter. I'll give you the basics of it. A notch for where the webs would come from. Something like that. Web line, web line, web line. Do our arches. Arch, 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 arch. Something therapeutic about doing all of these web lines over and over. Just like that. Okay? We're going to finish our web lines over here. So we got the one from the base of the leg, down the torso, shooter, or excuse me, our little capsule right there. Web fluid, just like that. Okay, so there's basically the left side of his costume. Okay, now we're going to do our left, his right. Okay, so we're going to do web lines. One at the point, one at the shoulder. Just do this outline. Again, normally I do this with the thicker pencil. We'll do that in a second. We got one web line from there. Got that point that comes out and around. Creates the red of the suit. Here's our web fluid capsules. Top of that red belt line. Here's our actual belt line. Side of the body. We'll do the same thing in the blue over here the way we did on the right side. That black piece comes down along the body. There's a little triangle down there, so you can fill that in. Interior web line. It's inside the red. There, web line there, web line there. As we'll finish the torso. Go out to that interior web line. Just like that. Okay. And now we're going to come in. I'm going to create that outside highlight. Kind of backlit. Color that in. A little bit lighter, not quite as dark as the black pieces. Okay. I'll let you guys check that out. And then we're going to finish that bicep. And add a little bit of a wrinkle where the arm meets. And the forearm. Tricep, elbow, other side of the forearm, the cool web shooters, which by the way, if I haven't said, doing sound effects while you draw always helps make it look cooler. So we got a little notch for the webbing to come out, some details on our web shooter. And do that balled up fist right there. Some knuckles. Just like that. Okay. Finish that costume. Down here. Top of the glove. Here's our little chevron shape. And then a web line all the way down the arm. Web line down the arm, web line, and finish these web lines over here. Boom, boom. Here's the top one, all the way around. We got this one here. We're just following really the lines that we already made in our underdrawing. So I'm going kind of fast. Are doing okay. And don't worry if you're not. It takes practice. You'll get it. Okay. So that's pretty much the. Oh, I forgot to do his right arm. So we got to do that rim light here. We'll come in and color that in. And now we're going to outline it so you guys can see. So we're going to go down the ribs, across the base. Okay. Down the arm. around the web shooter, fist, get rid of that extra dust. Web shooters, boom. Almost done. And boom, there you go, guys. There's Spider-Man in his web costume for National Superhero Day. But you are never quite done until you sign it and make it yours. So I'm gonna sign my name right here. Ryan Crosby.